Welcome back to our channel. Stay tuned for a special episode from PrescribEd, Healing Our Community.
Today, we're honored to take an opportunity to discuss some of the people who've paved the path forward for us in healthcare so we can do what we do every day, whether it's treating patients, educating, and just learning in our careers every day.
Right. And we're not going to bore you guys with a whole bunch of facts, but we looked up a select few people that, like Dr. Elena said, who have paved the way. And we got really excited looking it up, right? Like we learned a lot ourselves, so we want to share that with you. And then at the end, share a little bit about ourselves.
Let's start out with Dr. Julia Hughes.
So I'm going to talk about the wonderful Dr. Julia Hughes, or some people may know her as Dr. Coleman. So she was a Black pharmacist that really paved the way back in the 1800s, a time where I honestly can't even imagine being a pharmacist at all. It seems very difficult. So she was a pharmacist, an entrepreneur, a social activist. She had many hats. And she graduated from what is now known as Howard University with a pharmacy degree. She was also likely the first Black woman to own a pharmacy, Hughes Pharmacy, back in 1899, and the first Black woman in the United States to own a pharmacy. She ran a hospital pharmacy. She also founded Washington Sun newspaper back in 1914. And then not only that, she owned a started a hair care company called Columbia Chemical Company. Lastly, she was a political activist. So she was the first Black woman to run for political office. So I think we can agree that she's a boss, right?
Absolutely.
When I looked at all of the things that she did, I was wondering what I was doing with my life. Yes. So we honor Dr. Julia Hughes today.
Next, Dr. Ionia Whipper.
One powerful woman we'll talk about now is Ionia Rollins Whipper. She was an obstetrician who's a doctor who delivers babies, as well as a public health figure. She graduated in 1903 from Howard University Medical School. She then furthered her education at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, where she did her residency. One of the topics I feel very empowered and I feel is very important in our communities is the care of Black mothers and the livelihood of Black women overall when it comes to health. The disparities are vast, and we may have a show later on that talks about that when it comes to Black and brown women delivering and their postnatal care. Right. So Dr. Whipper started a private practice serving only women. One of the reasons I selected Dr. Whipper to talk about today is because of the disparities in Black and brown women when it comes to childbirth and postnatal care. Right. We unfortunately die at alarming rates after and during pregnancy, and Dr. Whipper did do a lot to help revolutionize the care. Dr. Whipper was also employed by the U.S. Children's Bureau to travel and educate midwives on sanitary practices and hygiene. As if that wasn't enough, Dr. Whipper organized the Lend a Hand Club, which raised funds to support unwed African American mothers. The funds raised during that club were later used to purchase in 1931 3.5 acres in Washington, D.C., and she opened the Ionia R. Whipper Home for Unwed Mothers, which served young women no matter their race. This was amazing because until the 1960s, there was no other place admitting African American mothers. So we couldn't have gotten care anywhere but at this location, which she fortunately opened to serve those individuals in need. So what's amazing is that even though this home is not in the same location today, it is still up and operating in Washington, D.C., serving the community around it. So we honor you today, Dr. Whipper.
Time for Dr. Sherman James.
So next I'm going to talk about Dr. Sherman James, and he was so interesting when I was looking him up. Currently, he's professor emeritus at the Sanford School of Public Policy. So he's an epidemiologist and a researcher, and he studies how racism and discrimination impact health. And so that is very near and dear to both me and Dr. Elena's heart, because that is what led us to even create this channel for you all. So he's best known for John Henryism. So what that is it's a hypothesis that implies that stress and discrimination contribute to high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, which then leads to premature deaths in African Americans. So very interesting and true hypothesis. So a vast body, also has a vast body of work in research. And today we honor you, Dr. Sherman James.
Last but not least, Dr. Marilyn Hughes Gaston.
Another present-day hero is Dr. Marilyn Hughes Gaston. She's from right here in Ohio, where we're from.
Wow.
Yeah. So what makes her so amazing, among many other things, is that she's been a leading researcher on sickle cell disease. Dr. Gaston became Deputy Branch Chief of the Sickle Cell Disease Department of the National Institutes of Health. Sickle cell disease is a disease that affects the Black community, whether you've got sickle cell trait or the actual disease. So a lot of us know or have someone in our families who suffer from sickle cell disease, unfortunately.
Right.
Dr. Gaston revolutionized this by her groundbreaking study in 1986, and that led to national screening of newborns for sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease.
Very important.
Yeah,
Very
that way you know what to expect.
Absolutely.
In that study also, we learned that, hey, we can treat this before we have a major crisis. So this has led to, treating young people who are suffering with sickle cell disease. Dr. Gaston has also held several prominent public offices, paving the way for healthcare today. Today we honor you, Dr. Gaston. When Natasha and I were doing research about all these influential doctors, authors, social workers, public health advocates, a lot of these individuals I had never heard of.
Right.
And I think both Natasha and I went through much of our childhood not seeing Black and brown people who look like us.
In the roles that we wanted
Yes.
or would dream about.
So I didn't have a Black doctor that I looked up to. I didn't go to a Black doctor. I didn't know a Black pharmacist as I went through my childhood. And I'm not sure if it was the same for you.
Yes, it was the same. I mean, there may have been a couple that I knew about, but none that I actually received my care from that I can recall. And it's definitely not a Black pharmacist that I recall until I got to pharmacy school.
Exactly. And that's the same thing. Right now, the other Black doctors I know have gone through medical school and residency with me.
Right.
So I think it's important to talk about, one, to influence other people to jump into the roles that we have,
Yes.
And to show that, hey, there are opportunities available for all of us.
Right.
Statistically, about 5% of doctors are African American.
Yes, and then for pharmacists, about 4.9% are African American or Black. So what we're getting to here is that representation matters. We've all heard that time and time again, but it really does. I mean, it helps you see what's possible for yourself, especially any of the younger people that are watching here. But we also think it's important to have the ability to see a healthcare professional who has some similarities to your culture, might understand some other things that other providers wouldn't. So we just want to motivate others with our journey. Yes, it was a hard road. It by no means was easy. We had our bumps, we had our barriers, and we're continuing to grow here. But we want to impart any knowledge we have to you all, and we want to honor those who came before us and are currently walking alongside of us today in this video.
Yes. One thing Dr. Natasha and I haven't talked about on camera is our journey here and our journey together that's made us friends. So we go back
Way
sometime.
back.
Yeah, so back to
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade,
She was the first friend I saw when I came into a new school. She said, sit here. So that's how we met each other in band class.
Yep, and we've been friends for life.
Right.
We went through the rest of our elementary, junior high, high school together. And actually, we went to college only, 20 or 30 miles away from each other,
Yes.
so not very far. And even though we didn't see each other day to
Right.
day at that point, our career paths still pretty much mirrored each other.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Through professional school and residency, and then, forging our careers forward.
So throughout our journey together, we always were intentional about reaching back to other minorities who wanted to follow in our footsteps or who were currently following in our footsteps, to give them guidance, to tell them about the mistakes we made that they shouldn't make. But we encourage you to do the same, reach back, help other people out. So today, I want to honor Dr. Alina on Black History Month for all of the contributions you have made to healthcare, all the contributions you have made to me, and I know the many hundreds, probably thousands at this point of life that you have impacted. So Thank you, Dr. Elena.
Thank you, Dr. Natasha. And I would like to honor you. You inspire me every day with everything you do. And this has gone back far beyond, or far before you were a pharmacist, but every day with touching lives, not only as my friend, but as a mentor and as a leader in our communities. So every day I look up to you, and I would like to honor you as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's our special Black History episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. So be sure to subscribe to Prescribed and also head over to our Instagram channel and follow us there. Also our website to get more information. Thanks.
Thank you.